Adam here from the Walser Automotive Group, and what I want to do today is take you on a test drive. So next to me here, I have a 2025 Hyundai IONIQ 5 XRT. We'll look at the interior, updates for 25, as well as the exterior and some trim level specifics, then take you for a spin around, see what it's like out on the road. Okay, so now we're behind the wheel of the IONIQ 5 XRT, and there's a lot of big changes for 2025, so let's start with those before we even get going. Now, the biggest one to me is the new addition of the NACS, or North American Charging Standard plug. So what that means is for this vehicle, it allows you access to the 17,000 Tesla supercharger network plugs without an adapter. What's nice, this one does still come with an adapter, so if you've previously been driving an IONIQ 5 or upgraded, it is pretty cool that way, but that's a huge upgrade for 25. Not to mention, they've also made some aerodynamic as well as battery changes to these, so each IONIQ 5 will get a little bit of a bump in range. Now, the big thing would be the long range size increase from a 77.4 kilowatt to an 84 kilowatt hour battery, and the standard range from a 58 to a 63. So now what does that mean in terms of range? All-wheel drive models go from about 260 to over 280 miles. The rear-wheel drive long ranges go from 303 to about 310, and the SE standard range moves from 220 to 240. So an extra 20 miles there is a pretty big deal. Now, like I said, with that NACS port, that is a pretty big difference now for all of the 25 models, allowing you access to all of those charging networks. Not to mention, inside the IONIQ 5s, they did make quite a few differences. From a standard pair of 12-inch displays, we now go to two 12.3-inch displays. It is a lightning-fast, usable infotainment system, and now standard will be wireless Apple CarPlay as well as Android Auto. So, before we dig into too much more, I know it's a lot of information, but just knowing they added the charging network, they made a few interior changes to the model that we'll cover when we're out driving around, and they've also increased the range across the lineup for the IONIQ 5. There's also a host of improved safety features as well, so there's quite a bit of cool stuff, but for now, let's put this XRT in drive, we'll go for a spin around. So I'm a pretty big fan of the Hyundai IONIQ 5. I think the styling is amazing, they offer a ton of different trim levels, and one other big thing to note is now that they moved the plant to Georgia, these can qualify for different tax incentives. So there's a $3,750 incentive now that these are built in the United States, plus Hyundai at time of filming are offering a $7,500 credit, so it's a pretty tempting thing to be looking at the Hyundai EVs. Now, what's really cool is this new addition for 25 of the XRT trim. There's a lot of really cool stuff. Starting on the exterior, there's a couple different custom colors you can get. This one is in just the standard white, but it does look really good. With the black bumper in the front and the rear, it kind of has this digi camo that runs onto it. It gives it a very cool and again, off-road focused look. Not to mention, this one sits about 0.9 inches higher off the ground, so you get a little bit of added clearance there, and it comes with a Continental tire. That's going to be an all-terrain tire, so you can use this not only in the wintertime, but if you're into some outdoors activities, whether you're running up to the cabin, going to maybe find a mountain biking trail, that is pretty cool. That gives you a little more space and that bite and grip you'd expect of an all-terrain tire. Plus, you get some really cool blacked out wheels. I think it's a great look for the vehicle. To me, it almost kind of looks like that super standard off-road look. Like if this was just white, black bumpers looking like a super base trim level, but it comes with a ton of equipment. Now, the XRT is going to only come with the H-Track, which is Hyundai's all-wheel drive, and the long-range battery. So this one has a 259-mile range when fully charged. Now, what's pretty cool, inside the vehicle, you actually get a minimum and maximum range, as well as the standard range that it expects currently at your driving style. So this is telling me I have about 82% charge. Maximum I could go would be 250, minimum about 180. That is if I'm putting my foot into it. So if you put your foot down, you could probably hear all my stuff in the trunk go flying. These vehicles are very quick. That is something about the EV vehicles that is so much fun, especially an off-road one. So if you got into a little bit of gravel, maybe you're off-road, you could have so much fun in these vehicles. Now, I did get a chance to also drive the IONIQ 5N, and that was one of my favorite vehicles I drove in 2024. The EVs, that instant power, torque, and the fun you get out of them is just so good. And I think an off-road focused one definitely adds a lot of cool factor to the IONIQ 5 lineup. Now, inside the vehicle, this one will have wireless charging on the XRT, as well, like I said, that 12.3-inch display. So the one side's gonna be my Apple CarPlay. So wirelessly, I hook that up, takes about 30 seconds to get it set up, and then every time you hop in the vehicle after that, text messaging, Google Maps, my Spotify is all built into there, and this one also gets the Bose sound system. It sounds amazing. It does make a pretty big difference over the standard sound system that the IONIQ 5 does come with. But the other side is going to be your digital gauge cluster that you can pretty much go through to see all your pertinent information. Like I said, you can leave the battery range on the right side here, your speedo would be on the left side, and then you can either see after charging, maybe your trip computer stuff, or that range guide as well, and your different kind of drive power distribution. So you can see if it's rear wheel focused or if you're using all four wheels. That is pretty cool. Now, one other thing here, what looks like would be paddle shifters is actually the change of how you can maximize your I pedal or kind of one pedal driving. So I have it set at 0, so it'll just coast. If I go to 1, 2, 3, you can kind of see it pulls you forward. So when you're lifting off, it'll regenerate some of that power to help give you a little bit of better range back. And then there's I pedal. So fully maxed out, that will actually bring you to a complete stop when you're out on the road, but you can adjust that to kind of fit your driving style, which is pretty nice. Now, along with that, you also have different selectable drive modes, and special to the XRT is the terrain mode here. So if you click the terrain mode, you can go between snow, mud, and sand, or your regular drive modes, which would be eco, normal, sport, and then on my drive, you can kind of program through the infotainment screen. But the steering wheel has also been reworked for 25. It's a pretty thick steering wheel, but it kind of makes me feel like I'm in an off-road vehicle. Not only that, but it is heated. That is absolutely one of the best features for these freezing cold Minnesota winters. It's a 2-level heated steering wheel. When you kick it on, this morning it was only about 30 degrees. I love having that. And you also have the heated seats, which now for 25, they actually made physical buttons. So before you had to go into the infotainment screen, that was a little bit more kind of cumbersome for people. So they figured just having the buttons down here does help, and I really do like that change. Not to mention, we've also got the camera button, so you can actually click that and see a full 360 view around the vehicle. You can switch to look all the way around, to the sides, out front. It is so cool. It makes it really easy to park, and that display is crystal clear, so you can see everything around you. Now, what else is cool is there's also a parking assist in here. So if you press and hold that button, it will pop up, help you get in and out of spots. If you're not the best at parking, this vehicle will certainly help you out there. Now, this does have built-in navigation as well, and the standard Hyundai menu. Like I said, it's very responsive and fast. For a 2025 vehicle, obviously you'd expect it to be very good. Not all infotainment systems are as good as Hyundai's. I love how well it works, the ease of use, and they figure most of the time people are probably using Apple CarPlay and Android Auto anyways, and that system works flawlessly behind the wheel. Now, this one will get a dual zone climate control, and not only are the front seats heated, but the second row will be heated as well. And now in the second row, I'm 6'1", and where I'm driving comfortably, I had more than enough headroom, legroom back there. 5 adults might get a little bit tighter, but for 4, it's pretty cool because you can actually slide the seats forward. If you're not bringing people with you, you want a little bit more space in the rear, and it's a 60-40 split rear seat, so you can actually kick those down if you need a little bit of extra hauling room. But there also is a plug-in underneath the seats here. So if you were gonna go do some camping, got the mountain bikes up on the roof, need to plug something in and charge it, this thing is basically like a huge charging port. So that is really cool there as well. Now, what about the ride and drive? Like I said, this vehicle is very fast. It probably is faster than 90% of the vehicles on the road, so it is very fun to drive, and it's very efficient. Like I said, 260 miles of range, that can really get you pretty far, and there's more options throughout the lineup if you want a little bit more of an extended range. But you know, if you think 95% of the time, day to day, are you kind of buzzing around in traffic, picking up the kids, running to the gym, whatever you might be doing, this IONIQ 5 can do it silently, can do it comfortably. I mean, there is so much cool tech and safety. Like I said before, they did up the safety as well. So you've got blind spot monitoring. One of my favorite features is when you kick on the blinker, left or right, it actually gives you a camera for a blind spot view in the digital gauge cluster here. I love that. I wish every vehicle had that feature. And this has also got the adaptive or smart cruise control. So when I'm out here cruising, I can set the distance to 3, 2, or 1. It'll keep that distance when I'm on the go. You could eat up a ton of miles and be very comfortable when you're going around. And I mean, just the day-to-day usability of it. It's easy. You hop in, the gear select frees up a bunch of space here because they've also reworked this center console. So you get not only a huge storage space with charging capability down below, but like I said, the wireless charging here and the 2 cup holders, plus a pretty large armrest, and there's no transmission tunnel. Since it's an electric vehicle, the floor is basically flat in here, so you get a huge amount of storage and more USB-C charging down below. So in terms of, like I said, a day-to-day vehicle, this is perfect. It's quiet in here. I can listen to my podcasts. I can, enjoy the silence of being in the vehicle. Yet, if I want, I can click it into sport mode, put my foot down, and have a bunch of fun. I just can't get over how much fun these vehicles are to drive and being how capable this one is. Maybe, like I said, it's just tackling those Minnesota winters, or you want to get out, go on a road trip. Maybe you might find yourself off-road. This XRT not only looks cool, but delivers performance as well. Tons of safety, tons of technology, and now we have to talk about the price. So like I said, with the discounts, the MSRP currently without any discounts is about $57,000. So yes, I get the electric vehicles are a little bit more expensive, but if you're taking about $10,000 off the top just from incentives in these vehicles, that puts you underneath the average new car price of about $49,000. And this is giving you not only heated seats in the front and the rear, but the wireless Apple CarPlay, the fun of it all. I mean, there's so much to like about these IONIQ 5s. I think the styling is killer, the safety and the warranty now with the battery and everything else that comes with these vehicles. So one thing they also changed is the approach and departure angle. So if you're actually serious about doing off-roading in this vehicle, the standard one is only about 2 degrees for an approach angle. This one now goes to 19.8 degrees. And in the rear, it went from 5 degrees to over 30 degrees for that departure angle. So you could actually do some off-roading in this vehicle. And being that the battery weight is a very low center of gravity, EV vehicles actually make really pretty good performance off-road vehicles as well. I think if you're shopping, maybe looking at the Tesla, the Toyota, even the Subaru or Honda EVs, I think the Hyundai IONIQ 5 is definitely one to add to the list to come out, take for a spin, and see what you think. Now that was just a quick look and drive at the 25 Hyundai IONIQ 5. Now if you have any other questions or you'd like to schedule a test drive, you can visit us online at Walser.com or stop by either one of our Hyundai locations. We'd be more than happy to help you out. Thanks again for watching.